Okay, let's kick things off. Good morning or afternoon, depending where you're joining from, and welcome to the Smarter Drafter customer webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. My name is Antonio, and I'm the head of product here at Smarter Drafter. Today, you'll be hearing from my colleagues Doreen, our resident knowledge lawyer, who will be covering all of our latest content updates, followed by Muzz, our customer success lead, who will showcase our features, including our latest innovation, the Smarter Drafter add-in for Microsoft Word. We've broken today's session into two parts, content and features. We have dedicated teams working on both sides, ensuring we bring you a well-rounded drafting solution. When it comes to content, we're supporting firms all across Australia, across all major practice areas. We're continuously working to ensure everything is up to date and compliant with current legislation. We also receive, and more importantly, listen to your feedback, which you'll see come through in Doreen's section. Our second focus is on our platform features. As head of product, this is something I'm deeply passionate about, ensuring we provide you with a world-class drafting experience from client intake all the way through to e-signature. Upon discussing with many of you over my time here, I have noticed, however, there is a bit of a gap in the middle of the process, which is why we've been working on bringing you core Smarter Drafter functionality directly into Microsoft Word, which Muzz will showcase later on. I'll now hand over to Doreen to kick things off with content.
Thanks, Antonio. Hi, everyone. My name's Doreen Stevens, and I'm the knowledge lawyer at Smarter Drafter. I've been at the company for about 10 months now, and in my role here, I create and update the content of the documents and the scripting of the processes. So, the questions that you're asked in the online form, that sort of thing. I personally have had a number of roles over the years in legal precedents and knowledge management at various firms, and I really enjoy what I do. So on that note, I'm going to talk today about the content developments we've made over the last 6 months and touch on what's in the pipeline. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the areas in which we've added significant amounts of content. And the first main area is in the court forms space. Firstly, for Family Court, FCFC OA, we've been steadily expanding that library so that we now have 39 forms for that court, and all of the standard application and response forms and your procedural forms. New South Wales UCPR, again, we've been building this library steadily over the past few months, and we now have 108 of those forms, including all the standard forms, the appeal forms, and a number of the probate forms. Vic County Court, we've got a substantial offering there now, 73 of the most used forms. And for Queensland UCPR, we have 47 forms. What we are working on in this space also now is the Vic Magistrates Court. They're under development, and we'll be adding those progressively in the coming weeks and months. The second way in which we've expanded our content recently is by partnering with practitioners to publish their content on the Smarter Drafter platform. And we're very excited earlier this year to partner with Amanda Little of the Family Law Education Network to publish her family law correspondence and document suite. That set comprises 169 documents, including correspondence and checklists, for all your standard as well as specialist list matters, so including Lighthouse, Evatt, SIL, that sort of thing. And that content is in addition to your Smarter Drafter Essentials subscription. We are currently exploring a number of other opportunities with other potential partners, and we'll let you know as soon as they're ready to come online. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the enhancements we've been making to our existing content and processes. Some of our content's been around for quite a while, as some of you would know, so we're looking to refresh and update that as well as add new documents. And we've recently released 2 brand new documents that replace previous versions that we had. Firstly, the employment contract, which we released in August, and the Legal Services Agreement or Costs Agreement and Disclosure for New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia, which we released last week. These documents have been completely redrafted to be in a more modern and simplified style, and the online forms where you enter the data have also been carefully reviewed to streamline the completion process. So I'll just take you through some of the elements of the review and reissue process and use some examples from both of those documents to illustrate what we've done. The first thing we did in our review was to look at the usage data to see how the form was being used and how questions were being answered. And we've removed options that weren't being used very much to reduce the number of questions you need to work through and answer. We have a report that aggregates all of this data for us, and there on the screen is a snapshot of that. And this is what we've used to inform this part of the review. So in the employment contract, for instance, we've removed the clause relating to the high income guarantee. And this particular snapshot shows the actual stats around that question. And we can see that only 165 submissions ever selected yes, bearing in mind that document had been around for several years before we retired it. We also removed the option to select how employees were being paid. Previously, you had the option of cash or EFT, but again, the report showed that cash was only ever selected on a few occasions. In the Legal Services Agreement, we removed the option to include a success fee and the option to include the clause relating to compliance with EU privacy principles, as again, our stats showed they weren't being included. And just on this point, if we have removed a clause that you were using or you have your own particular clauses that you'd like to use, you can create these clauses yourself and save them into the Smarter Drafter clause bank, and then you can import them into your document when you need them. And Muzz is going to be talking a bit more about the clause bank a bit later on. With the options, we don't only take them out, we have added further options into the new documents in response to your feedback and also in response to regulatory changes. In the employment contract, for instance, we've expanded the ways in which you can express hours of work. So for a part-time position, for instance, you can select which days of the week and you can enter the same start and finish times or different start and finish times. And there on the screen now you can see a few different variations, what you're able to output in the document now. In the new Legal Services Agreement, we've included options to include counsel details and counsel fees in litigation matters. And you can express the fee estimate as a whole of matter estimate or phase by phase if you're choosing to set out matter phases in the agreement. So for instance, you've selected yes. What you get in the document now is a general clause about the barrister that you've briefed and what their fees are. And then in the estimates there, you can see there's a line item in each phase for the barrister's fee and no line item where you've entered zero for that particular phase. And of course, everything totals up nicely for you. In the new documents too, we've reviewed and added guidance notes with respect to the current law and legislation. So in the employment contract, for instance, we've added comprehensive notes regarding the right to disconnect, which recently commenced for non-small businesses, to give you some background about the current state of the law, and also to give you some information on the document outcomes depending on which option you choose. As you can see here. And just there are the clauses that you will get depending on whether you chose yes to include a reference to the right to disconnect provisions or no. In the documents themselves, we've adopted a more modern drafting style with overall simpler wording and syntax. So for instance, we've used shorter sentences, used list formats to set out items, used the active voice instead of passive, eliminated double negatives, that sort of thing, and generally adopted one proposition per sentence. And in terms more broadly of the document structures, we've used less defined terms and schedules and less cross-referencing from a clause back to defined term and then forward to a schedule, that sort of thing. And on the screen, you can see a before and after of the disbursements clause in our legal services agreement. On the left is the clause which was in our previous document, and it's in 8-point in that document, so it's very small. It refers back to 3 defined terms and is quite dense with long sentences and highly formal language. On the right is the newer version with shorter sentences. We've set things out in a list, used subclause headings to assist clients to work through the clause, and we've referred to the parties as us and you to speak more clearly to the other party in the transaction who generally doesn't have any legal training or background. So that's an overview of the review process that we went through to come up with our new documents. And with the legal services agreement, I just wanted to say I was fortunate to have the assistance of 2 of our customers who volunteered suggestions for the documents and reviewed drafts. That's Jules Mara of SGM Legal in Melbourne and Tarsan Marlak of Marlak Manus in Sydney. And guys, if you're on the call, I'm very grateful for your input. It was fantastic. For those of you who would like, say, the legal services agreement drafted for your jurisdiction, or you'd be prepared to work with us on any other document to provide input and review drafts, please reach out to us. So apart from the new releases, we've also made a number of amendments to other documents, both in response to legislative changes, but also in response to your requests and feedback. And these have run the gamut from a typo or a grammatical error to more substantial issues. And on the screen there is a list of all the documents that we've amended in the past 4 months or so. I'm just going to talk about a couple of those documents and the amendments we've made to give you a flavour of the sort of thing that we do. Firstly, in our short form will, or our simple will, as some of you know it, we've included in the residuary estate clause substitution provisions for the substitute beneficiaries. And I'll just zoom that in for you a little bit more. So now in a typical scenario of the estate goes to the spouse and then to the children as substitutes, these provisions work to pass on any of the children's share onto their children and grandchildren if they predecease the testator. And previously this clause ended after the naming of the substitutes. And these provisions do exist in our long form will too, but a number of customers have expressed a preference for this version of our will as being a bit easier for clients to understand. And one of our customers requested this amendment just to build out the utility of this document a little bit more without it becoming our long form will. And with our family court forms, or the ones which are either affidavits or contain affidavits, we had feedback that the forms were a bit difficult to use in that the fields around the swearing of the affidavit are mandatory in the form, in the online questionnaire, whereas in practice those details might not be known at the beginning, at the time the document is being produced. So we're now currently working through those forms to make those details optional only, and they can be completed then once you know those details. So that's all I wanted to say about enhancements, and just to reiterate that we encourage you to provide your feedback or request a review or enhancement if you're having any issues with the content of a document or the form. And just quickly to let you know the major reviews that we have in train at the moment that we've received feedback about. these documents, and these are also some of our most used documents. So our share or unit sale agreement, our employee handbook to complement the new employment contract, our long form will. This is probably our most used document, and we have received quite a bit of feedback over the weeks and months from you. So we'll be looking to incorporate that, review that, and incorporate that into a new document. And with the wills, we had a request from one of our clients to have a letter to the client to go with the will for all of our will types. And we only currently have that for the long form will. The last thing I want to talk about is our content blog on our website. We have started over the past few months doing a monthly post that sets out all the content development and changes that we made over the previous month, what we've done and why. And we also do separate blogs when we release new documents or significant updates. So on the screen is a snapshot of the blog page. If you select content at the top left there, that little drop down, you can just view the content updates. So the monthly updates are in silver and the special issues are in blue. And lastly, you can also review the blog entries from the Smarter Drafter dashboard from the What's New tile in the middle there. You can scroll through to review all the entries and click on any of them to read more about any of them. And that's it from me. Thanks very much for listening. As I said, please reach out if you have any issues or you'd like to contribute. And I'll hand back to Antonio now.
Thank you, Doreen. Great to see there's so much happening in the content space. We're going to shift our focus now over to our latest features. Earlier, I mentioned that we are working towards improving all aspects of the drafting experience. I've received feedback from many customers stating that although Smarter Drafter is great for generating that initial draft, the document will no doubt require editing and final polishing in Microsoft Word. And this is why we've gone on to develop the Smarter Drafter add-in, which brings a range of our drafting features to you directly within Word, with the newest and my personal favorite being Clause Bank. With Clause Bank, this allows you to build a collection of clauses, definitions, and other reusable pieces of information that can easily be used when drafting any document. With advanced search and filtering functions, you can quickly find the appropriate clause, insert it directly into your document with one click, and it's available to your entire team within Microsoft Word. I could talk all day about the new features within this, within the add-in. However, let's just jump straight into it with Muzz for a showcase.
Thank you, Antonio. So what I'm about to go over is just how to insert a clause and all the new features that we've added to Microsoft and with this add-in. This isn't a training video, it's just a high-level demo. If you have any questions, you can always refer to our resource center on our website. All right, well, let's just start with inserting a clause. So here I have a services agreement that I've generated within Smarter Drafter. I always find myself changing this non-disparagement clause on page 11. So I locate that and then highlight delete so that I can go and replace it. And then I open up the Smarter Drafter Word add-in on the right-hand side, just zoomed in there. Click on that, it opens up my Microsoft Word add-in. I click on Clause Bank, and there I can see all of my clauses that I've generated, and these are within the firm and not shared or visible externally. I can then scroll up back to the top and use the simple search bar up the top to then enter any keywords or find any keywords within my clauses. I can also search short descriptions and access those as well. So I'll just go in and type non-disparagement, and then it will shortly pull up everything relevant to that. There I have it. Perfect. And then in that drop-down, you see that I have all clauses as a drop-down menu item. I click on that. I can see my clauses that I've built, clauses that my team has built, and at the bottom, the Smarter Drafter clauses which we've provided. I'll touch on those shortly. I click on the advanced filter search. I can search by jurisdictions. We have all relevant states and territories, including federal. I can then select practice areas. For this, I think it's commercial, so I'm going to click on that. Categories, these are all personal and you can add as many as you want. So please have a play when you get the chance. So I've located my non-disparagement clause there. I have a short description that briefly outlines what it's going to do. And then I can click on the left-hand side preview, and then I can see what I'm going to be inserting. That looks about right to me. So I'll click insert. And as you see, it's dropped it in as my cursor was. And then at the end, once I'm ready to reformat, I can just highlight and then update those fields to match my document formatting. So that's inserting a clause. Now let's take a look at adding these clauses so I can share them within the firm. First, I've gone and built this out in my own time. There's my clause with a few details. I'll just go and highlight this and then click the add clause on the right-hand side next to the advanced filter. And then it generates all the relevant fields that I need to fill out. So clause title, I just have there, it's just on delivery. I can just simply copy and paste that. We kind of thought that, this would be in a master document. So this is just copy and paste, fairly easy. And then I will select my categories. Again, when I spoke earlier, I said you can customize these. Just click that add category button. I'm just going to put in termination here. And a cool feature here that I really like is that you can multi-layer these. So we can go termination and we can also select services. Perfect. And then practice areas, again, we can multi-layer these. We're going to go commercial and employment. For jurisdictions, I can select every jurisdiction as I feel this is relevant for Australia-wide. And I can also, again, select federal. How's that? So short description, I would say more detail is better, but keep it nice and concise. As you saw earlier when inserting a clause, this is just going to give us a quick insight as to how this clause should be used, and you can give instruction there as well. Perfect. All sorted. Let's just go and hit save. And again, if I need to make changes, there is an edit button now available within this feature. Perfect. Now it's ready to share with the firm. All right. So to help get you started, we've worked with Doreen, who spoke earlier, to curate around 70 clauses. Here's a quick snapshot of this list now available and included for free within your current Smarter Drafter subscription. How do I find these, you wonder? All right. In that dropdown I showed earlier, we can then click on the Smarter Drafter clause bank, and these are all the clauses that I had in that snapshot earlier. Just lay it out, have a scroll in your own time preview, and if you think we're missing anything, give me a shout. So this word add-in wasn't just created for Clause Bank. You have several features at your disposal and all, again, included in free to kind of save time and boost efficiency when drafting. Submissions is the first one I'll touch on here. So this allows you to look at any relevant or search any relevant documents you have available in Smarter Drafter at this point in time that you're working on. As you see, I have multiple versions of this document. I then click on that. It's going to open a new Microsoft Word add-in, so I didn't have to jump into my browser, jump back into Smarter Drafter. Again, cool little feature just to keep you moving as some things pop up in your day. I can then go and edit this document and then save as well. So talking about saving an e-signature, all Smarter Drafter documents are formatted and smart docs. So forget the days of going through and creating a signing order and all of that, formatting it, creating a template. You can now just go into Smarter Drafter, click this save and send for e-signature, and drop your client's details, recipient's details, full name, and email address. How simple is that? So after that, we can then go and save the changes back to Smarter Drafter, which will drop it into our Word browser, and then you can open in submissions, but you can also send it back to your relevant practice management system that you're using. Again, cool, simple, quick. There we have it. Lastly, we have designed a highly requested feature for extracting key points of information when you're looking at your documents. So here I have the summarized lightning bolt, and then I can create any smart summary. So I just go and highlight any of the information there. I'll just let it load for 2 seconds. Perfect. And then we click on paragraph. We can break it up into bullet points. You can make it concise, standard, long, however you like to process information. And this will allow you to be able to prepare that for a client in an email or a cover letter. So again, another cool feature, highly requested. Give it a try and let me know how you go. Lastly, we have a QR code here. I'll leave it up for a few seconds to scan. This is just a quick video on how to install this Word add-in. Fairly simple, super easy, and we will be sending this out at the end of the webinar. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your attention as well. I'm going to hand you back to Antonio.
Thank you, Muzz. As you can see, there's a lot going on here at Smarter Drafter, both with content and with our feature development. For more updates, be sure to check out our blog, which is available on our website, as Doreen mentioned. And for all things help and support, head over to our help center or reach out to Muzz and the team directly. Thank you all so much for your time today, and have a lovely day.